Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nico Acosta. I'm the Director of Product for Programmable Voice. And I want to share with you a couple of things today. I want to show you what makes a great voice experience and how we think about it. I'm going to share a couple of the new building blocks and where they fit into the overall experience, and some key takeaways. So let's dive right in. So let's start. Let's take a look back and see where we started. We started with a phone invented 150 years ago as a single-purpose device. And then we kind of took that into the world of apps, creating single-purpose apps to communicate, but yet all the rest of the apps were not able to communicate. And these created standalone experiences. In this case, literally standalone experiences. And then they were just hard to integrate, right? Integrating communications was super hard. But then when you look at what you have, your applications look something like this, right? They're web applications. Here you have all your business logic, you have your customer data, and they're built on a web stack. So what Twilio does that is so powerful is that it takes your backend that already powers your web application, and that already powers your mobile app. And using the same HTTP protocol gives it communication superpowers. So with Twilio, the same app that you use to power your website can now call any phone number in the world, can now receive and make calls to any number in the world. It can talk to billions of WebRTC browsers. It can call mobile apps or talk to on-prem SIP installations. And when you think about this approach, there are three things that we think when we build the voice platform. The first one is context. And where does context come from? And it's two places. Take your application backend that has all your business logic and all your customer data. Well, that's the biggest source of context that you can have. So when you integrate that with communications, your communications are inherently contextual. Controlling communications from where your business logic lives is an extremely powerful concept. The second is reach. And reach, we mean how the number of endpoints that are addressable. So you can call pretty much every telephone on the planet. You can call and make and receive calls from your mobile app. You can call WebRTC browsers. You can call on-prem SIP installations. And managing that reach, depending on which of the platforms that you are, is an interesting task. And the last one is flexibility. In the web, we're used to running things. We're used to doing continuous deployments. We're used to shipping multiple times a day, running things like A/B tests. All these things are unthinkable in the traditional world of telephony. With Twilio, you can just take all those learnings from the web and apply them to the world of communications. So let's look at the new building blocks that we've shipped in those three categories of context, reach, and flexibility. In context, we're shipping recording add-ons that enable you to easily integrate partners to extract meaning from your recordings, to do things like sentiment analysis, like transcriptions in multiple languages. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Reach. So this morning, we're launching Voice Insights for Client that help you manage the last mile experience for all your WebRTC clients. And on flexibility, we're going to be talking about new ways to connect to the Twilio cloud. So let's look at the recording add-ons. Add-ons, the philosophy around building add-ons is pretty much captured in these three principles. First one is provide customers with options. For example, take a product like transcriptions. we have a transcription product that works in English, but what about all the other languages? What about all the other languages that we can't do? What about like doing transcriptions in Japanese? How can we get that in your hands as quickly as possible? And we figured the right model to do this was the marketplace model. The second thing was that you should be able to integrate these with with zero code, very, very easily. So one-click installation on the portal, and you should be good to go. And they should follow the same Twilio philosophy of pricing, that is pay-as-you-go pricing. So we're launching the recording add-ons with 2 partners, IBM and VoiceBase, that provide high-accuracy transcription, and you will see us adding more partners as we go. But let's take a look at how this works in practice. So you have your code. When you turn on the add-on, you get an additional JSON in the callback. And in that URL, you have the JSON with the specific response from the add-on, from the Watson add-on, which makes it a really, really flexible API. And every add-on works in a similar way. So once you learn how to use one, you can use all the rest. So in short, you can do more with less. Recording add-ons will be available in developer preview. You can sign up through the portal, and they will be available later this week. So to talk about Voice Insights for Client, I'm going to invite my colleague, Gagan Mack, who's going to walk you through it.
Thanks, Nico. How many of you are here this morning? Show of hands. Awesome. All right, so you guys already know a little bit about Voice Insights. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to try to do a slightly deeper dive, and we'll walk through the console, which I quickly skipped through because of Jared and George Michael. All right. So this is the story today. You have a few users, and the developer is using Twilio APIs to build great experiences, communication experiences for the users. Now, like we saw in the morning, in the field, sometimes Paul will have bad network. Eric will have a bad microphone. And anytime this happens, we observe this a lot, that developers get bugs, they reach out to Twilio, that the voice experience of our users is bad. And then we debug together. And there is a lot of overhead when we have to do this. So with Voice Insights, we are taking a 3-pronged approach. The first one is letting the users know in real time, right then and there, that there is a problem in the environment and it can be fixed. So for instance, if you're walking around with your laptop or your device, and you walk away from the router into a small room, you will experience quality degradation. At that point, you can show a visual indicator, a cue to the user saying, move closer to the router, plug into the Ethernet cable, and so on. We are already used to this today, because whenever we hear bad network, we look at our cell phones, and we are like, oh, cell phone bars are fewer than they should be, so it might be I'm in a bad network area. So this can be brought to the Twilio apps as well. The second piece is that this information is then sent to Twilio and to you via APIs and dashboards. And using this, you keep track of exactly what is going on in the end user's environment. You can then eliminate this bug cycle and instead give proactive feedback to the user whenever they reach out to you, or track which of your users are more likely to experience quality problems because of whatever reasons. So this is all at a single call level. Now, the problem with voice, like we talked about in the morning, is that debugging voice is hard, has been hard so far, because it has been a black box. Whenever there is a voice quality problem, traditionally, developers have not known why that has been the case. To get the operational visibility, we are integrating all this data through a fast data pipeline and allowing you to filter these reports on each aspect. So when Google releases a new version of Chrome and requires your users to restart the browser without having any notification, you will have no control over that. But now you will be able to know that a version upgrade from Chrome broke your user's experience. Or when the call is being routed by a certain region, and that is more likely to cause problems, you will know that. Finding a needle in a haystack of users on where there's one user who's constantly having problems, but then if you just file it like yet another bug report, it does not work. There is a certain characteristic which you will be able to uncover about the user. So this is aggregation at an account level. And you can filter on any of these aspects: incoming calls, outgoing calls, region, OS, users, browsers. Let's take a look at the console. All right. So this is from the call we saw this morning. Not from that exact call, actually. This one is another test call which we made, which has these metrics. These are the network metrics. So I want to give you guys a deeper look at this. These are time-synchronized graphs which show you, during a long call, exactly what happens when there is high jitter, high latency, and audio and input and output levels are still changing, but the mean opinion score, which is a measurement of call quality, is dropping. In a very long call, you should be able to zoom in and figure out exactly where the problem is. But that's not all. These quantitative metrics should be correlated with the user action and user experience. So we also give you guys events. With Voice Insights, these warning events which are fired at the user on Paul's machine because of network or on Eric's machine because of microphone, you see those events as an event log exactly when they occur, with the values of what caused the problem. So when your user sees the problem, you see it in the dashboard as well right away. And then you see who disconnected the call. For some experiences, it is really important for our customers to know whether it is the agent who's disconnecting the call who's never supposed to do that. Imagine you call an airlines and you get hung up on. So you don't want that, right? So we give this information right away. At the end of the call, we calculate a call summary, which tells you exactly what the overall metrics of the call were. And this is available for every single call which your account has made in the past 30 days. Oid briefly went over this graph in the morning, or this page. So over the last 30 days, now you can see what was the warning composition, filtered by each IP address, filtered by each client. So if you have multiple clients, you can see that TDL2, please don't name your clients like that, they experience a lot more problems than Jenny did, for instance. The calls routed through a particular region, what kind of problems were faced, and so on and so forth. And you can select these filters right from the top, and you can choose between which calls, the number of calls, warnings, issues, feedback, and the disconnect method for each call. Was the call ignored, rejected, disconnected by the remote server or by the local machine, or was the method not known? This data is available for last 30 days at different granularities: 8 hours, 1 day, 7 days, 15 days, and so on and so forth. We believe that this will give you guys a lot of power to build great experiences and really shorten the debugging cycle, really shorten the debugging cycle of any problems which you guys face with your users. And it'll help the users a lot as well. For the next piece, I would love to invite Annie on stage.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Annie. I'm the Director of Product Management for our connectivity layer. And I'm here to talk about flexibility and what we've done in the connectivity layer over the past year. So first of all, I want to start off with the world of elastic SIP trunking. I don't know how many of you are actually using our SIP trunking product line. A few, OK. So we launched that product a year ago. That's essentially the ability to connect into Twilio through SIP and connect directly out to the PSTN. And what we did, since we launched to this year, is we really focused about giving customers more options about what can you do with that particular product. So the first thing we focused on is doing multiple origination URIs, and that talks about the ability to connect to your infrastructure. So we added the ability to connect to multiple IP addresses, so now you can configure up to 10 different IP addresses, and you can assign each one of them a different priority and weight. So that gives you flexibility to do any type of failover or load balancing strategies towards your infrastructure from Twilio. Then in September last year, we launched our trunking API. So that's the API to allow you to actually configure trunks on the fly in a matter of seconds. And we also launched a feature called secure trunking. So secure trunking is the ability for a particular SIP trunk to encrypt all of the calls using TLS for signaling and SRTP for the media. And it's essentially you enable SRTP and TLS at the same time for the entire trunk and all of the calls going through that particular trunk. Then in December, one of the areas that we really wanted to focus a lot is in improving our troubleshooting, because we were looking at all of the different support tickets that were coming in for trunking. And there are a lot of things that we said, hey, we can probably do this better and give you more visibility at when calls are failing, what's going on. So we did 3 things there. One of it was the ability for you to be able to download the PCAPs directly from the call logs table. So there you go into a particular call log, and there's a download your PCAP button, and you're able to see the exact SIP messages going back and forth. The second thing that we did was we implemented a test your trunk infrastructure, which is the ability to say, once you configure your trunk, you might want to actually test that all of the configuration between either your PBX or SVC on-prem to the Twilio trunk is working properly. So there's a phone number on the Twilio side that you're able to place trunking termination calls towards, and you dial that number and you get a pre-recorded message saying, welcome to Twilio, this is a test message. Please record your audio for 20 seconds and we're going to play that back to you. And similarly, for the opposite direction, you were able to place test calls to the numbers that you have configured on your trunk. And then the third thing that we did is there were a lot of early call failures that were occurring. So things that, for example, calls were connecting in with the wrong IP ACLs configured, so from different IP addresses, or you might have the wrong username and credentials, or you might be just dialing a wrong phone number or a phone number that's blacklisted, or you might be exceeding your CPS levels on the trunk. So now through our debugger capabilities, you're able to see those alerts coming up to say, hey, maybe in the past hour you had like 10 different bad user credential calls coming in, and you're able to configure alert triggers around that. And then we did 2 new cool features. So one of them is emergency calling that launched in the US, and Twilio Interconnect, which I'm going to get a little bit into in the next few slides. But before I do that, I'm going to switch context a little bit between trunking and programmable voice SIP. So we have 2 different products at Twilio that allows you to connect through SIP into the Twilio platform. The first one is Elastic SIP trunking, which is the ability to essentially just dial in through SIP and connect to the PSTN. So it's a very basic connectivity product line. And then our other product, which is programmable voice SIP, is again the ability to connect in via SIP, but we allow you to interact with our programmability layer using Twimo. And I'm going to talk about a new feature that we're releasing in developer preview that's using programmable voice SIP, which is SIP registration. So essentially what we're doing is we're allowing endpoints themselves, so either a SIP hard phone or a SIP soft phone, to register dynamically with Twilio. So essentially saying, here's my SIP registration, here's the IP address where I'm located, and from then on you're able to place SIP calls outbound towards that particular endpoint. So that's really augmenting the flexibility of the ways you can connect into Twilio, not only through a PBX or an SBC, but also now directly from actual SIP endpoints themselves. And it's actually really simple. What you do is to enable this, you just enable it on the particular SIP domain that you have configured. So you say, I want this domain to support SIP registration. That allows the clients to dynamically register, and then to call out to the SIP registered devices. You can see the code sample up on the screen. It's really straightforward. You do a dial SIP, and it's essentially the name of the client that's registering in that particular region. So it's pretty straightforward. So now I'm going to switch on to another connectivity enhancement that we did. So we launched in March this year a new product called Twilio Interconnect. And Twilio Interconnect is about giving customers the ability to connect into Twilio, not over the public internet, but over a private connection. And we launched them in 2 regions so far. So we have one Twilio Interconnect exchange in Ashburn, and we have another one in Silicon Valley. And we're going to be launching another one in London and another one in Singapore coming towards the end of this year, early next year. And it's really about just giving you another option to say, if you're concerned about like the quality of service, the throughput of the bandwidth connection from your infrastructure into Twilio, or just a more stable bandwidth connection, this is another way that you can leverage as well to connect to Twilio. So we have 3 different types of what I'm calling private connections. One of it is the ability to connect through an MPLS network. Then the other option is you can have a direct cross-connects directly into our facility in the Twilio Exchange gateways. So that's a point-to-point connection. Or you can leverage VPN going over the public internet. And typically what we've seen is probably the most popular tends to be at the direct physical cross-connect, primarily because it's faster to establish. It's much easier to get that going rather than an MPLS connection. But we are giving all of these different options that we have. And the products that are supported are Elastic SIP trunking, programmable voice SIP today, and we're also going to be supporting Twilio client as well coming soon later this year. So with that, I'm just going to wrap up the session. So we talked about 3 things today. First of all, it's about giving meaning to your communications, which is what Nico covered in the beginning. So really about giving context to the communications that you're establishing. The next thing is about operational visibility with insights. It's about understanding what's going on with the local conditions, what's going on with the infrastructure is the problem in the last mile, being able to have visibility into that, and just being able to communicate better with your customers and understand what's going on. And then the third thing was about essentially using the right tool for the job in terms of, we have many different ways to connect into Twilio, what's the right thing for you and what makes sense, and that pretty much wraps it up. So again, my name is Annie. My colleagues are Nico and Gagan. We're around here all day if you want to ask us any questions, so please feel free. Thank you.